You know those facts that your parents, teachers, and even your friends have told you your whole life? The ones that sound so true you never even thought to question them. Well, today we are going to break your brain a little bit. We are counting down the biggest lies that the entire world still thinks are true. Buckle up, because by the end of this, you'll realize that everything you think you know is probably wrong. Let's start in the kitchen. If you've ever been to a kid's birthday party, you've seen it. A room full of children screaming, running, and bouncing off the walls. What's the first thing the parents say? Oh no, they've had too much cake, it's a sugar rush. But here's the truth. The sugar high is a total lie. Scientists have actually run tests on this. They gave one group of kids real sugar and another group an artificial sweetener. Here's the kicker. Neither the kids nor the parents knew who got what. When the results came in, the sugar kids weren't any more hyper than the no-sugar kids. So why do we believe it? It's all in our heads. When parents think their kid has had sugar, they start acting like detectives. They watch their kids like hawks. If the kid laughs a little too loud or jumps once, the parents scream, "See, sugar rush!" In reality, kids at parties are just excited because they're at a party, playing with friends, and are likely tired from all the fun. If you gave those same kids sugar-free cake, they would still be tiny tornadoes. And while we're in the kitchen, let's talk about that 30-minute rule. You know the one. Don't go in the pool for 30 minutes after eating or you'll get a cramp and drown. Your mom meant well, but there is zero evidence that swimming after eating is dangerous. There isn't a single recorded case of someone drowning because they had a sandwich before jumping in. The old theory was that your blood rushes to your stomach to digest food, leaving your legs too weak to swim. But guess what? Your body is a master multitasker. It can digest a burger and kick your legs at the same time. In fact, professional swimmers actually eat during their long training sessions to keep their energy up. Now, let's move to that gray matter inside your skull. You've probably seen movies where a character takes a magic pill and suddenly they can solve complex physics while doing backflips because they finally unlocked 100% of their brain. The myth that humans only use 10% of their brains is one of the most famous lies in history. If 90% of your brain was doing nothing, evolution would have gotten rid of it a long time ago. Nature doesn't like keeping useless luggage around. In reality, your brain is going full throttle all the time. Even when you're fast asleep, your brain is busy. It's controlling your breathing, keeping your heart beating, and replaying your most embarrassing memories from 3rd grade. Your brain is a tiny energy hog. It only makes up 2% of your body weight, but it eats up 20% of your body's total energy. That's like having a tiny space heater in your head that uses all your electricity. This myth likely started back in the 1800s when a researcher said people weren't living up to their full potential. Somewhere along the line, someone turned that into, we only use 10% of the organ, and the lie stuck. But trust me, you're using it all right now.
Have you ever stood at the top of a tall building and thought, what would happen if I dropped a penny? There's a famous legend that a penny dropped from the Empire State Building could hit someone on the sidewalk and go straight through their skull. It sounds scary, but it's physically impossible. When you drop something, gravity pulls it down and it gets faster. But on Earth, we have something called air resistance. Air isn't just empty space, it's full of molecules that push back against falling objects. Because a penny is flat and light, it starts tumbling as it falls. By the time it has fallen about 50 feet, it hits its terminal velocity, which is only about 25 miles per hour. Getting hit by a penny at 25 miles per hour would feel like someone flicking you on the arm. It would be annoying, but it definitely wouldn't kill you. If you want to be truly afraid of falling objects, watch out for ballpoint pens. They are aerodynamic, like tiny arrows, and could actually cause some damage. And while we're talking about tall buildings, let's talk about lightning. You've heard the saying, lightning never strikes the same place twice. Tell that to the Empire State Building, which gets hit about 25 times every single year. Lightning actually loves hitting the same place twice, especially if that place is tall and made of metal. There was even a park ranger named Roy Sullivan who was struck by lightning 7 different times. He survived all of them, though his friends eventually stopped hanging out with him during rainstorms for obvious reasons. Let's jump back in time. When you think of a Viking, you probably imagine a big, burly man with a beard and a helmet with 2 giant cow horns sticking out of the sides. I hate to break it to you, but Vikings never wore horned helmets. This was a fashion lie created by theater costume designers in the 1800s. They were making costumes for operas and thought horns looked dramatic and scary. In a real battle, horns would be a disaster. They would give your enemy two perfect handles to grab your head, or they would get tangled in tree branches while you were trying to run. Archaeologists have found real Viking helmets, and they are basically just plain metal hats with nose guards. The only horned helmets ever found were from 3,000 years before the Vikings lived, and they were used for ceremonies, not fighting.
Speaking of style, let's talk about shaving. Almost every teenager is told, don't shave your face yet because it will grow back thicker and darker. This is another total myth. Shaving has zero effect on your hair growth. Your hair's thickness and color are decided by your DNA, not a razor blade. When you shave, you aren't changing the hair, you are just giving it a flat-top haircut. Natural hair has a soft, tapered end. When you cut it straight across, the new stump feels rough and blunt. That's why it feels thicker, but it's actually the exact same hair. If shaving actually made hair grow thicker, we wouldn't have bald people. Everyone would just shave their heads every day to get a thick mane of hair. When winter rolls around, your parents probably told you to put on a hat because you lose 50% of your body heat through your head. This fact actually came from a very flawed Army survival manual from decades ago. In their experiment, they dressed soldiers in warm winter gear but left their heads completely uncovered. Well, of course they lost most of their heat through their heads. It was the only part of their body exposed to the air. In reality, your head only makes up about 10% of your body's surface area. You lose about 10% of your body heat through your head, which is perfectly normal. You aren't a heat chimney. If you went outside with a hat on but no pants, you would lose a lot more heat through your legs than your head. The only people who really need to worry about this are babies, because their heads are much larger compared to their tiny bodies. Finally, let's talk about animals and snacks. Everyone says goldfish have a 3-second memory. We imagine them swimming in a circle and thinking, oh look, a castle. Oh look, a castle. But goldfish are actually surprisingly smart. Scientists have trained them to solve mazes, recognize their owners' faces, and even play soccer by pushing a tiny ball. They can remember things for months, not seconds. They can even tell the difference between different types of music. And for our final myth, the swallowed gum. We've all heard that if you swallow a piece of gum, it stays in your stomach for 7 years. If that were true, our stomachs would be full of pink rubber by the time we were adults. The truth is that gum travels through you just like anything else. Your body can't digest the rubbery part of the gum, so it just passes it through in about a day or two. It's exactly like eating a kernel of corn. Your body takes what it can and sends the rest to the exit. As long as you aren't swallowing giant piles of gum every single day, you are perfectly fine. So, there you have it. From Vikings with plain hats to goldfish that can play soccer, the world is a lot different than we were told. The next time someone tells you to wait 30 minutes after lunch to swim or warns you about a sugar rush, you can tell them the truth. Don't believe everything you hear. Stay curious.